Good afternoon, Year 9. Today we're going to explore Don John in a bit more detail and the second plot. We know about the first plot, which was all to do with getting Beatrice and Benedict together. Now we're on to the next plot, the next plot within the play, and we're going to find out about Don John in a bit more detail. Write down everything you know now about Don John. You've got 5 minutes. Okay, he's Don Pedro's half-brother. Don Pedro is the prince. Don John is the bastard, born out of marriage. He's bitter and wants to cause problems. He's a plain-dealing villain, in his own words. Our learning objective today is to explore the role of Don John and the second plot, but the title that goes into your books is Don John and the Second Plot. And today you're going to need the usual suspects, a copy of the extract from Act 2, Scene 2, access to YouTube to watch some clips, and different coloured pens and highlighters. And never forget, if you need a new book, Year 9, let me know and I'll get one. You can either come in and get one at certain times or I'll get it sent to you. Okay, well, straight into it. Watch the clip, watch this scene summary and read Act 2, Scene 2, which is attached. Write your first impressions about this scene. How is Don John presented? And whenever we look at these things, we look at them in terms of language and structure. So, you know, what language has been used to present him and what structure has been used to present him. There's 10 minutes on that. Right, you must remember that Don Pedro and Don John are half-brothers, and the rules of primogeniture and illegitimate children mean that only one has the title and the money, and that's Don Pedro. The other is known as a bastard and only welcomed by society because his brother allows him to be. There's fierce rivalry and bitterness from Don John because of this, as there would be. I mean, that whole idea of a child being born out of wedlock and so on is all nonsense. I think I read recently that as many children are born outside of marriage as born within it, and each of those families is obviously just as legitimate. So this is a very old idea and approach to illegitimacy. But why would he want to cause problems for Claudio? You know, why would Don John want to cause problems for Claudio? He's one of those characters who, it's a little more clearer with him, but often in Shakespeare they turn up like Iago in Othello. You're not quite sure what their motivation is, why it is that they're as horrible as they are. But maybe he wants to get at Claudio because Claudio has become Don Pedro's right-hand man, a position that Don John sees rightly as his, perhaps, and he sees hurting Claudio as a way to hurt his brother, the man who was taking away what is rightfully his. Well, it isn't actually rightfully his, is it? But nevertheless, that could be a motivation. But we don't really know. He's just not a nice chap. So while Don Pedro is plotting to bring two people together, his brother is plotting to bring two people apart. So let's just read this part of the scene. Don John. It is so. The Count Claudio shall marry the daughter of Leonato. Baracchio. Yea, my lord, but I can cross it. Don John. Any bar, any cross, any impediment will be medicinable to me. I am sick in displeasure to him, and whatsoever comes athwart his affection ranges evenly with mine. How canst thou cross this marriage? Baracchio. Not honestly, my lord, but so covertly and that no dishonesty shall appear in me. Don John. Show me briefly how. Baracchio. I think I told your lordship a year since how much I am in the favour of Margaret, the waiting gentlewoman to Hero. Don John. I remember. Baracchio. I can, at any unseasonable instant of the night, appoint her to look out at her lady's chamber window. Don John. What life is in that to be the death of this marriage? Baracchio. The poison of that lies in you to temper. Go you to the prince your brother, spare not to tell him that he hath wronged his honour in marrying the renowned Claudio, whose estimation do you mightily hold up, to a contaminated stale, such a one as Hero. What proof shall I make of that? Baracchio. Proof enough to misuse the prince to vex Claudio, to undo Hero, and kill Leonato. Look for you any other issue? Only to despite them I will endeavour anything. So that little speech there by Baracchio, the little section there, the poison of that lies in you to temper. Go you to the prince your brother, spare not to tell him that he hath wronged his honour in marrying the renowned Claudio, whose estimation do you mightily hold up to a contaminated stale, such a one as Hero. He's going to make Hero look like a contaminated stale, so he's going to destroy her reputation. He's not quite said how yet, but it's going to be to do with Margaret looking out of a window late at night. But that's his plan. So how is Don John shown to be a villain in this scene? Well, you've got 5 minutes to get those notes into your books. Now we're on to Act 3. Remember, but in between these two scenes have been the gulling scenes, the tricking scenes of Benedick and Beatrice. So there's the link there. Watch this scene, summary, and read Act 3, Scene 2. Write your first impressions about this scene. How is Don John presented here? Now, to lighten the mood a bit, as Shakespeare always does in this play and in his comedies, we're going to quickly go back and look at Benedict as a changed man now. He's heard that Beatrice likes him, fancies him, whatever the terminology you want to use is, and he is now a completely different man from the confirmed bachelor that he was at the start of the play. So I'll just read this, and then you can write down a list of the ways that Benedict has changed since he heard about Beatrice. Claudio. Yet say I, he is in love. Don Pedro. There is no appearance of fancy in him, unless it be a fancy that he has to strange disguises, as to be a Dutchman today, a Frenchman tomorrow, or in the shape of two countries at once, as a German from the waist downward, all slops, and a Spaniard from the hip upward, no doublet. And if you have a fancy to this foolery, as it appears he hath, he is no fool for fancy, as you would have it appear he is. What you got to remember, that this is dramatic irony. We all know, and they all know, all the lads, why is Benedict's being like this? Because they tricked him. Claudio. If he be not in love with some woman, there is no believing old signs. A brushes his hat o' mornings, what should that bode? Don Pedro. Hath any man seen him at the barber's? Claudio. No, but the barber's man hath been seen with him, and the old ornament of his cheek hath already stuffed tennis balls. Leonato. Indeed, he looks younger than he did by the loss of a beard. Don Pedro. Nay, I rubs himself with civet. Can you smell him out by that? Claudio. There's as much to say the sweet youth's in love. Don Pedro. The greatest note of it is his melancholy. Claudio. And when he is wont to wash his face. Don Pedro. Yea, or to paint himself, for the which I hear what they say of him. Claudio. Nay, but his jesting spirit, which is now crept into a lute string, and now governed by stops. Don Pedro. Indeed, that tells a heavy tale for him. Conclude, he is in love. So write down a list of the ways Benedict has changed since he heard about Beatrice. And he's changed completely. He's gone through 180 degrees. Right, Don John puts the plan into action. Dramatic irony again, this time to build suspense rather than to create comedy. So you're going to read this and write some notes. How is Don John presented in this scene? 5 minutes to make notes. Don John to Claudio. Means your lordship to be married tomorrow? Don Pedro. You know he does. Don John. I know not that, when he knows what I know. Claudio. If there be any impediment, I pray you discover it. Don John. You may think I love you not. Let that appear hereafter, and aim better at me by that I now will be manifest. For my brother, I think he holds you well, and in dearness of heart hath holp to effect your ensuing marriage. Surely suit little spent and labour ill bestowed. Don Pedro. Why, what's the matter? Don John. I came hither to tell you, and circumstances shortened, for she has been too long a talking of, the lady is disloyal. He's talking about Hero. Claudio. Who? Hero? Don John. Even she. Leonato's hero. Your hero. Every man's hero. Claudio. Disloyal? Don John. The word is too good to paint out her wickedness. I could say she were worse. Think you of a worse title, and I will fit her to it. Wonder not till further warrant. Go but with me tonight. You shall see her chamber window entered, even the night before her wedding day. If you love her then, tomorrow wed her, but it would better fit your honour to change your mind. So he's going to prove to Claudio, with this trick that he's got going on with Baracchio and Margaret, that that Hero is faithless, unfaithful. So write down how Don John is presented in this scene, just 5 minutes. Claudio's reaction. Why does he believe Don John? You know, he's supposed to be in love, Claudio. You know, he was besotted with Hero. It wasn't the first time he'd seen her when he saw her, but he'd had some sort of relationship with her before, but he'd had to go off to war. But he came back and saw her, and he was, you know, married. He wanted to get married the next day, and he was, you know, like some sort of mad 13-year-old. And now, as soon as Don John, who's got a rep for being, you know, a bit of a bastard in all respects, why does he believe him? We have to ask ourselves that. And what does it make us think about Claudio as a person? You know, is he somebody? He's a bit of a twit, really, isn't he? He just lives his life. He's completely spontaneous all the time. He never thinks about anything. Anyway, here's the last bit of that scene, and then you can answer that for yourself. Claudio, may this be so? Don Pedro, I will not think it. Don John, if you dare not trust that you see, confess not that you know. If you will follow me, I will show you enough. and when you have seen more and heard more, proceed accordingly. Claudio. If I see anything tonight why I should not marry her tomorrow in the congregation, there I should wed, there will I shame her. Charming, isn't it? Don Pedro. And as I wooed for thee to obtain her, I will join with thee to disgrace her. So Don Pedro's jumped on the bandwagon as well. He's happy to shame her if they get some proof tonight. Don John. I will disparage her no farther till you are my witnesses. Bear it coldly but till midnight, and let the issue show itself. Don Pedro. O day untowardly turned. Claudio. O mischief strangely thwarting. Don John. O plague right well prevented. So will you say when you have seen the sequel? So, it doesn't take long for Claudio to be convinced that his fiancée is potentially unfaithful. He's told he will see proof, and he immediately promises that if he finds any reason tonight, any proof, he will shame her tomorrow. Don Pedro agrees. Just as he joined in the wooing, he helped Claudio get together with Hero, he would join in with him to disgrace her. Don John is known to have had fallouts with Don Pedro before. Claudio has been tricked twice by Don John before to believe that Don Pedro was after Hero for himself. So why do they believe him and not trust in Hero's loyalty? Make some notes. I won't read out all my notes there, but make a summary of those notes and put them into your books. Right, Year 9, this is the part that I want you to send to me, or rather to upload onto Classcharts. Who is John John? Why does he want to cause problems? That's the title. So using evidence from Act 1, Scene 3, Act 2, Scene 2 and Act 3, Scene 2, as well as small mentions in Act 1, Scene 1 and Act 2, Scene 1, create a brain dump of everything you know about Don John. And your challenge is to include relevant context such as cuckoldry and illegitimacy. So that's quite an enjoyable task actually, isn't it, that one? I hope you enjoy it, and upload it onto Classcharts so I can have a look at it and give you lots of achievement points. And well done for your work today. We've got a bit of Shakespearean comedy coming up next time, so good luck with that, and I will speak to you tomorrow.